a lot of the baits, when you look at the back of the packaging, and a lot of people don't realize this, there's a lot of companies where stuff is made overseas.
I feel like it's rare to find someone who's like a casual fisher.
The fishing industry is a pretty tight network group. We all lean on each other. We all talk to each other. We all discuss what's going on. And it's just a matter of paying attention to what's going on around you.
Hello, and welcome to the Liberty Spenders podcast. We are Kurt and Kristen Ludhart, your hosts and co-founders of the Prosper Group, an agency that's helped raise over $500 million and help elect over 100 members of Congress, 15 governors, 15 U.S. senators, and 1 president. Business owners, what if you could exponentially grow your business by tapping into a lucrative and engaged audience of 76.5 million people that we call Liberty Spenders? These Americans spend $5 trillion a year, and they're motivated to buy from businesses and brands that share their values. If you want to learn more, you can get access to our new best-selling book at libertyspenders.com/free.
Our guest today is Ryan Gubrud. Did I say that right, Ryan?
Yeah.
I should have asked beforehand.
You got it.
Good. See, I had it right the whole time. He's the CFO and CSO of Freedom Baitz with 25 years of expertise crafting top-quality soft plastic baits for panfish, bass, and walleye. Passionate about growing America's fishing industry, he's dedicated to innovation and introducing new anglers to the sport with exceptional U.S.-made products. Here's a guy who really understands Liberty Spenders. This can be a fun interview because, as we were saying beforehand, I don't know anything about fishing.
Neither one of us, yeah.
I think the last time I went fishing was,
Yes.
I mean, I know it's surprising because I look much younger, but I'm 46, and probably the last time I went fishing was with my dad in probably middle school. So I've got a lot to learn, but I'm excited to hear you talk about it. For people who, like me, are the uninitiated, tell us first what Freedom Baitz is, and then tell us a little bit about how you got started and why and how this whole thing got kicking.
So Freedom Baitz is a company that, for one, we're vendor known. Everything we do is made here in the U.S. So all of our products all of our material supply chain is all sourced from the U.S. We make what's called an artificial fishing bait. So we make different shapes and sizes for your panfish, for your bass, and for your walleyes. I'm from Minnesota, so I live in the walleye capital of the United States. That is where I got my start with my dad, Steve. I learned how to walleye fish, northern pike fish, and we started out using live bait. Minnows and night crawlers underneath the bobber. That's how I learned. And then as my fishing passion grew, then I started getting into the artificial baits. And it got to a point in time where after I got out of the military, it's like, okay, what do I want to do with my life? Where do I want to go? I got into selling cars, and fishing was always still my passion. It was my go-to. It was my release from stress. Instead of going to a bar or doing other crazy stuff, I'd go fishing. It was my chance to be with nature, to be with God, because you can fish by yourself. You don't have to be with somebody. You can fish from the shore, a dock, a boat, whatever you want to do. Nowadays, kayaks are a really big thing. But I started making artificial lures. I started out making what's called a blade bait, or what a lot of people call a spinner bait. I started making those in my mom and dad's basement when I came back from my military service. And then it grew into hand painting lures, taking old beat up lures and repainting them. And then I got this crazy idea of, well, let's make plastic baits. How do we get into that? And that was before the days you had YouTube and everything else. So I had to literally go out and find somebody that was making and go, show me how to do this. I don't know anything about it. Show me how to do this. So I started making artificial baits, got more and more involved in the fishing industry. My wife and I at one point in time owned a fishing tournament circuit between Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. And then the passion for making the artificial baits just kept growing and growing. Myself and my partner ran into the gentleman that owned Freedom Baitz at the time. So I am not the founder or the creator. I've just taken it to a new level. Freedom Baitz was inspired by this gentleman's dad's veteran service. So today, Freedom Baitz is a veteran-owned business. When we got involved originally, Freedom Baitz was not a veteran-owned business, but all of our baits are military themed, from guns, missiles, planes, helicopters, everything like that. So it's all military themed. There's a couple baits that are not military themed, and that's probably because my wife looked at the bait one day and goes, "Well, that looks like an evil bug." No, so that name's stuck. So there's a couple baits where it's not military theme, and it's because either my mom came up with the name or my wife came up with the name, and it's just kind of stuck. It's not changing, and it's just out of respect to my mom and my wife.
Well, we're not going to hold that against you, Ryan.
And I don't think anybody will. So over the years, we've grown Freedom Baitz from being just in a small town backyard business to we're across the nation, and we sell into Canada. And I think we're in somewhere around 70 some stores right now. So it's not just an online. We don't have our own retail store, but we're inside retail stores. But our online presence is growing daily. I just came back from the biggest industry show that fishing has. It's called ICAST. It's held in Orlando, Florida every year. It's like a giant networking, but it's also there for the retail buyers to see all the newest and latest and greatest products that are out there. But the passion is building the best bait I can at not necessarily a premium price, but at a fair price, and supporting the veteran community. We're tied to a couple of different veteran groups. We're also tied to an addiction recovery group as well called Real Recovery here in Minnesota. So we're tied to different groups at the same time. And people ask me all the time, why do you do this? A lot of it is to leave a legacy, and it's not my personal legacy. It's the Freedom Baitz legacy, being able to make an impact on the community and everybody else around us, and not just, I want to make $1 million. No, it's bigger than that. It's the legacy of being able to support the veteran group and to be able to support other groups that pull on our heartstrings, like Real Recovery.
Two things. One, thanks for your service. And two, I could never have guessed that you're from Minnesota, which I'm being sarcastic because your accent's a dead giveaway.
Yes.
And I love it. I love it. Well, I got to say, so I think I'm so glad you shared that story the way you did, because it really helps people understand, you took time with it, like you said, and you were taking it to the next level, and it was all just about your enjoyment of what you were selling. And I think that's such an incredible thing, is that for so many founders, right? We're the subject matter expert. We're the person that's really passionate about what we're doing because there was an idea. We're filling a need. We're filling a void. A lot of times we're solving problems that we've had ourselves. So tell me about the American-made manufacturing, because I know that's a big part of what you do. So what has that been like for you to set that up? Did you run into challenges? Speak to that, because I know that a lot of other people are obviously making that a priority.
So Freedom Baitz, for the most part, is done what we call in the industry as hand poured. Literally, we're melting our liquid plastic salt in a microwave. We take hand injectors and we inject it into the mold. Now, that is a pretty common practice for when you're getting started out making artificial baits, is to be doing it by hand. It's becoming kind of a lost art because a lot of people just want to push a button on a machine and then crank out 100, 200 pieces of plastic at a time. We're to the point with Freedom Baitz where we can do that, but we're still made in the US. A lot of the baits, when you look at the back of the packaging, and a lot of people don't realize this, there's a lot of companies where stuff is made overseas. It might be packaged here in the US, but is not physically made here in the US. And there's a big difference to that. Myself being a vet in the Navy and my business partner being a USMC, made in America is very, very critical to us. And it was not easy setting up a supply chain so making artificial baits, you use a liquid plastic called plastic salt. And that has to be heated up to anywhere between 240 and 350 degrees in a microwave to get it to solidify into the finished product that you see. Now, a lot of your glitter and stuff comes from overseas, but finding a manufacturing company here in the States to make the glitter, the shape and sizes that we needed was not easy to do. That took quite a few years to figure that out because there's a lot of glitter companies, but when you put them into high heat, they melt, or it's called what most people refer to as bleeding. The color fades into what you're trying to do, and you can't have that in the fishing industry when you're trying to make an artificial bait. It deteriorates the bait. It does all kinds of funky things that you don't want it to do. For our scent, that was relatively easy to find. There's a lot of scent manufacturers here in the US. It was just a matter of finding the right one that fit for Freedom Baitz. So our scent, our glitter, our plasticell, and even our bags that we put our finished product in is all made here in the United States. Bags was a really, really difficult challenge. When we first started getting into Freedom Baitz, the bags that we were using was just a clear bag with a tag on it. Now we have a full-blown bag that looks like any other fishing company bag out there. But trying to find a manufacturer here in the US was not easy because most of your bags or your packaging of any kind, whether it's clamshell bag, box, whatever it happens to be, is usually made in China, Japan, Taiwan, possibly the Philippines, a little bit down in Mexico. So finding a manufacturer of a bag company here in the US, that took about 4 years.
Wow.
And that was a really big challenge. Everybody's like, well, why do you care if the bag's made here in the US? And it's like, well, it was more of a challenge to see if we could find a company to do it and be able to do the volumes that we needed. It was simple to find people that could do 25, 30 bags at a time. Well, that doesn't do me any good. I need 5,000, 10,000 bags at a crack. So finding a company here in the US was a challenge. We were able to do it. But that was a challenge. Being able to get the last piece of the puzzle per se to make it, in our minds, legitimately 100% made in the US. Now, packaging's in a different category than your physical product. That really doesn't need to be made in the US for your product to be made in the US. But we took on the challenge and we wanted the packaging to be here as well. So setting up the supply chain as we've grown has been an entertaining process. For the most part, we've been able to keep all of the same suppliers. We have 2 different companies that cut our molds for us. They're here in the US. So that hasn't changed at all. We don't get our molds from overseas. They're locally sourced right here in the US. Smaller, small businesses just like ourselves, trying to make a difference and grow. So that's how we built our supply chain.
So what would you say? What advice would you give? Or maybe it's like a motivational pep talk. I don't know. What would you say to other businesses who are navigating this right now, who are maybe interested, but just haven't pulled the trigger for any number of reasons? What would you say to another business owner who's trying to figure this out?
If you're trying to move your supply chain from overseas to the US, do your research. Talk to other people that have moved their supply chain to the US. I'm open to talk to, obviously, my expertise is more the fishing industry. But supply chain is still supply chain. Moving your supply chain from overseas to the US is a challenge, with the tariffs and everything else that's going on around the economy right now. It's not easy. It will take time. And you're going to have some slings and misses. That's just reality of trying to move a supply chain that was predominantly overseas to the US. Not every company is going to be a fit for you. Not everything is going to work out the first time you do it. There is a learning curve and it does take some time. Granted, people want to be able to go, I want to flip my supply chain in 30, 60, 90 days. That is not a reality of how that's going to work. I don't care if you're fishing industry, the electronics industry, the automotive industry, whatever industry you're in, it's going to take time to flip your supply chain. That is just a reality because you've got to build rapport with those new companies. That's the biggest thing. It's not as simple as sending off an email or picking up the phone and calling somebody. Go and visit those sites. Go and see what they're doing. Make sure they're actually building the product that you need here in the US. And it's not just a warehouse where they're shipping it in and repackaging it.
Yeah, that's a lot of wisdom there. There's a lot to unpack. And I think what's so great about what you just said was at the very end about visiting and building relationships and building, that trust and rapport, which I think is so exciting that people don't realize that the human element of going and meeting another fellow, American business owner and the power that you guys can have working together as opposed to just some nameless, group that you might find. Great advice. Great answer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think are you still working with your dad as well in the business?
Yeah.
My dad is involved to a degree of mentorship, more so than anything. My dad is retired from Wells Fargo as a vice president over corporate trust. So any of the financial questions that I have or any concerns I have when I'm looking at that type of stuff, that's where my dad plays a big role for me, just because he's got 35 years in the banking industry, something that I really didn't do throughout my career path. And so I lean on him for that type of stuff of, hey, this is what I'm looking at doing, or what do you think about this? Or, how do we adjust these numbers, to work in our, to do different things in the financial industry. That's where my dad plays a role with the Freedom Baitz. He's not per se part of the company. He's more of a confidant, my good friend, my partner in crime when it comes to fishing and hunting in the outdoors. That's where I learned all the basics of this industry when I first got started was, okay, I'm looking at doing this, Dad. What do you think? And that's where it comes in. Now, my mom packages 99.9% of every package Freedom Baitz has made for the last 5 years.
Wow.
Well, yeah, you better than keep her name, when she's naming a product, man.
Yeah.
She might stop packaging your product.
Yeah.
Is the other 0.1% packaged by your dad, or is it all your mom in the warehouse?
Every once in a while, I'll do some stuff just because I need to put something together for an order that's going out, and my mom's at coffee or they're out traveling or whatever. So the 1% is when my mom's on vacation is me.
That's that's just such a beautiful story. And I love the family dynamic and how you guys have made it work. So considering you've had this passion for, 25 years, maybe plus, how are you staying on top of trends? What are you noticing in the fishing industry? Because I know you said you're a real expert and you speak on a lot of podcasts about this. What are you noticing? You mentioned kayak fishing. Are there any other trends that you're trying to stay on top of with Freedom Baitz?
Yeah. So in the fishing industry, there's been push to go towards a hard bait, or there's soft baits. The trends tend to change with what's going on. The forward facing sonar is a big question in the industry. Is it a good thing for the industry or is it not? There's a lot of people that equate it to looking at a video game screen. I grew up breeding shorelines, looking at wind points off of a point or different breaks when you're looking at the shoreline. Nowadays, you can look at a screen. You can see how deep you are. You can literally see the fish on the screen. You can see what direction they're moving. So a lot of that plays into, okay, what type of baits do you make? Are you just making a simple bait that looks like a grub, or are you trying to mimic like a creature that's in the wild? We've got a bait that's called an Apache. A lot of people think it looks like a giant ant. That's actually what it was designed to mimic. So we try to create baits that mimic the creatures and the bugs and different things like that we see in the wild. Now the names of our baits aren't going to come anywhere close to what that actual bait is, just because of the military themes. But looking at, the trends in the industry, the big trend right now is using these massive giant swim baits. It's a hard bait that's got a joint in it and it can flex and bend. Well, that's not something that Freedom Baitz does, but I can make an artificial bait that's that same size, won't react the same way, but it'll give you something a little bit different. If they're not chasing that hard bait, well, I've got a plastic bait that's roughly the same shape and size that they might hit. So whether it's a hard bait or a soft bait, they tend to feed off each other, because a lot of your hard baits still use your soft baits as a trailer or as an attractant. So the trends, everything ebbs and flows. There's a lot of changes in the industry right now. Unfortunately, just like in industry, there's companies that pop up, companies that go away, companies that restructure. It's no different than any other industry. You've got all that stuff going on all the time. So the fishing industry is a pretty tight network group. We all lean on each other. We all talk to each other. We all discuss what's going on. And it's just a matter of paying attention to what's going on around you. And it's not just what's happening in Minnesota. It's what's happening across the country. So a lot of it is networking, listening, watching a lot of different podcasts, because a lot of people are talking about a lot of different things. So I spend a lot of time listening to podcasts.
Well, it's interesting too, because I really haven't I know a ton of people who fish, who love to fish. And I feel like it's rare to find someone who's like a casual fisher, right? Like people that enjoy fishing, they are passionate. I don't know if it's just the people I know or if you would agree with that, but it sounds like, it's the type of customer, right? You get somebody hooked on your product, you're going to get a very loyal person who's really passionate about what you do. Hey, business owners, did you know there's 76.5 million faith-based and conservative consumers that are looking to support brands that align with their values?
That's a $5 trillion opportunity, and if you're not tapping into it, you're leaving money on the table. Our new book, Liberty Spenders, is your ultimate guide to reaching this influential audience using conviction-driven marketing.
That's right. We break down real-world strategies that successful brands are using right now to connect with this audience authentically, build trust, and drive long-term business growth.
So if you're truly serious about standing out in today's crowded market, grab your copy today on Amazon or visit libertyspenders.com. And don't miss out on this revolutionary strategy called conviction-driven marketing.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing that's unique about the fishing industry. The automotive industry has that to a degree, but it's not as prevalent as it was at one time, where either you were a Ford, Dodge, or a General Motors person. In the fishing industry, it's because you have so many different ways to fish. It becomes more of a brand loyalty than it does a product loyalty. Or are you just a plastics guy, or are you just a hard bait guy or gal? Doesn't matter. It becomes more of a brand loyalty. And a lot of it comes down to, what is that company representing? It's not necessarily the product they're making, maybe. It's more of, does that company represent who you feel is a good benefactor or a good supporter of the industry? So a lot of the brand loyalty that Freedom Baitz has is because of the veteran-owned status, made in the United States. That all plays into it. Yes, we have unique looking baits, but pretty much every plastic bait company does. What separates us from a lot of it is we are veteran-owned. Yes, there is a lot of veteran-owned plastic companies. Don't get me wrong. I'm not the only one. But the made in the USA is a big thing. The uniqueness of the names, the different groups that we support, the different vet groups, the different whatever community activities we're doing, different things like that. And I think a lot of people are surprised when they call the phone number on the website. They're actually talking to me. It's not just some customer service person. It's not, a phone bank in some foreign country or some crazy thing like that. I get a lot when people call the phone number. Oh, you answered the phone. And it's like, yep, I'm Ryan. I'm the owner. What can I help you out with today?
Yeah, there's a human on that. There's a human on the other end.
Yeah.
There's not just a prompt.
I'm amazed by how much I still get that to this day after 5 years of my personal phone number being on the website. But it's fun because I get to interact with the people. I get to answer the questions live instead of going, hey, can I call you back? Or, hey, leave a message. Now, I don't get to every phone call that comes in right away, but I do return every phone call that I do get. And that's, to me, customer service is a big thing. It just seems like it's kind of dying, or it was dying at one point in time in this country. And I think customer service is coming back. And I think people really appreciate the fact that they can talk to a live person, let alone, hey, I got to talk to the owner of the company. To me, it's not a big deal. To a lot of people, it is, though. because they get to pick the brain of the person that's creating the product. I mean, I pour all of the product, whether it's in my shop or in my shop that's in my garage. My R&D shop's in my garage, and then I've got my big shop where I do my production stuff. So being able to pick my brain, a lot of times customers love it. I have a lot of good conversations with a lot of good people around the country.
Well, it's a great differentiator. And when you're talking about brand loyalty, that's just going to add to it. Anyone that interacts with you, right? It's just going to increase that feeling of connection and buy-in that they have with Freedom Baitz.
Absolutely. And, I think it's, it's really, to your point, it's people know they're doing business with Ryan, which is a totally different experience than we most of the time have, I know you're also passionate about introducing new people to fishing. Okay. So, all right. So somebody listening and they're like, I like this Ryan guy. I'm interested in this bait that looks like ants and learning about this. How, what's a good way to get into fishing? How would a newbie like me say, okay, I want what Ryan has. How do I get started?
So this is what's going to surprise you. Most people that get into the industry or get into fishing, period, whether you're fishing from a boat, dock, shore, kayak, whatever, doesn't matter. I always tell people to start with live bait. And people are surprised when I say that. I'm like, build your confidence with live bait. Start with a minnow, start with a night crawler. Artificial baits is a totally different game. So I always tell people start simple. Make sure you like what you're doing. Make sure you're enjoying what you're doing. And then as your passion for the fishing builds, start buying those hard baits, start buying those soft plastics, start building from there. That's how I learned. That's how I got to this crazy ride I'm on now. I didn't start out with artificial bait. I started out with live bait. Build your success. Get your success stories going with live bait. Live bait is a lot easier to use than artificial bait. I know that sounds weird from a guy that makes artificial baits, but that's the reality. And that's what I tell anybody that I introduce, whether I'm taking a kid out or I'm taking somebody that's 75, 80 years old up. I always start them out with live bait, and then we build to the artificial bait. Build confidence in the live, and then start growing into the artificial baits, whether it be hard baits, soft baits, whatever it happens to be. Can you start out with artificial baits? Absolutely, you can. Find colors. What I always recommend to somebody that's starting out with artificial baits, find colors that your eyes are attracted to. It might seem weird. It might sound odd, but if you're confident in that color, you're going to be confident that you're going to catch fish with it. Not everybody uses the same colors. Your color patterns grow as you get more and more experience with fishing. You look at the color patterns that Freedom Baitz got. We've got colors that we make in certain baits that we don't make in other baits. And there's a reason behind that, because certain baits and certain colors work in certain times. Other colors work in other times. I've got a color palette that's pretty mild compared to what a lot of companies have. But even out of the 25, 30 different colors we make, my actual color wheel or color pattern wheel that I can create is over 200 colors. That's a little hard to do 200 colors in 30 different baits. So we pare it down to taking the most popular colors that have worked for us personally. Then we bring them to the Freedom Baitz and go, okay, this is a new color or this is a new shape. People ask, well, okay, with the artificial baits, why do you choose certain colors? A lot of it, as you get more and more experience in the fishing, is based off of what's the weather doing? What's the color of the water? And that gets into more in depth, more knowledge, more experience over time. You just start picking that stuff up. But a lot of it is water clarity changes the color of bait that you're using or the type of fish you're going after.
So whatever happened to the good old fashioned worm? That's the way my dad did baits. We just stuck a worm on a hook,
And that's the way I started out. And we make artificial worms. So the big thing with artificial baits compared to live baits, you catch a fish on a night crawler or a worm of any kind, that's usually one fish, and you got to put a new one on. Artificial baits, depending on the bait, depending on the softness of the bait, different things like that, you can go 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes even 10 fish on one piece of artificial bait compared to a live bait, it's usually one fish and you got to put a new one on. So that's a big advantage over artificial, over live bait, is you're going to catch multiple fish on that same artificial piece than you will with a live piece.
Yeah. Well, plus worms are gross.
I was going to say.
I mean,
they're a little messy.
Hard plastic baits. Yeah. They, a little, let me stick my hand on a bottle of worms, like, come on.
So, Ryan, I want to ask you one other thing, which is just, you've talked about the importance of brand loyalty, how it's huge in your industry. So I know that brand awareness is so important for you at Freedom Baitz. So how are you spreading that word? How are you boosting that, both through your customers and beyond?
We do a lot of social media because nowadays that's a lot of what you got to do. But amazingly enough, majority of our customers have been coming to us via word of mouth. People use our product, have success. They share that story with, 10 of their friends or 5 of their friends, whatever it happens to be. If you have a bad experience, you usually don't tell people, or you do tell a few people, but you don't tell as many people as when you do have success. In the fish industry, it's kind of unique. When you have success with a certain type of bait, you tend not to tell your friends because you don't want your friends knowing your new hot secret. So
a little competitive, are we?
It's very competitive, even when it's amongst friends, whether you're legitimately fishing a tournament or it's like, okay, you found a new hot product and you're smacking the fish all over the place. You might tell your best friend, but you're not going to tell a whole lot of people right away. That's just kind of how the fishing industry has been. Even when
maybe the super fishers, right? But if you were doing this with your friends, wouldn't you want them to catch fish?
Yeah.
Or is it really I'm better than you?
Some of it is I'm better than you, but a lot of it more so nowadays because the younger generation, unfortunately, is not getting into the fishing industry as much as our generation it was. So you see a lot more sharing of information nowadays than you saw 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. I've got a team of pro staffers that is 25 deep, men and women. And they do an excellent job of sharing their stories of why is this working? Why didn't it work over here, but it worked over there? So we're storytellers nowadays more so than we are, hey, I'm smacking fish, but I'm not going to tell anybody. Now it's more so, let's share this with the world. And so people can understand that you can be successful at this just like I am. I'm not saying that you're going to be able to make a career out of it because it's not easy making a career in the fishing industry, being a content creator for the fishing industry. It's just not an easy goal, whether you're a female or a woman or a man, doesn't make a difference. The fishing industry is, like I said before, is a very tight knit group. And yes, there's a lot of success stories being shared, but there's not that many stories of the failure being shared. We've made baits that haven't been successful and you just continue it. There's been things that we've tried that just don't work. And it's just part of being an entrepreneur. You throw some out there. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you just keep grinding.
Well, I know you've talked about that because you incorporate feedback from your customers, right? To either stop making something or to make a pivot. So I know that's something that you incorporate regularly into your business.
Yes. Customer feedback is huge. It's whether it's a bait or it's a color, whatever the case happens to be, customer feedback is the biggest thing that I can work off of, or even my pro staff team. It's, I'll show baits to them before they get out to the market. Obviously it might test well. It might show well. It might look great in the package, but if it's not catching fish, people aren't going to buy it. They're not going to, they're going to look at it and go, well, how is that going to work? And sometimes it's the craziest shapes in the world that you think aren't going to work, absolutely explode on you. And the shapes that you think are going to be just gangbusters are an absolute dead flop. There's no rhyme or reason to why that is. I 25 years of doing this, I've never been able to figure it out.
Right.
But
test.
There's a lot of testing. There's a lot of feedback, whether it's pro staff or just your average Joe that's out there that maybe goes fishing a couple times a year. That's some of the best feedback actually in the world, is the person that's not a diehard, that doesn't go out, 3-4 times a week or every weekend or whatever. The person that goes out a couple times a year is some of the best feedback you can get. Whether they had a successful trip or not is truly going to drive whether they come back to you or not. I've had customers that hadn't been fishing in 20 years, saw us on a TV show and tried our baits. And those people keep coming back because they had success the first time they used it. Now, does that work for everybody? No, it's not going to. I'm not going to tell you that our baits are going to catch you fish every time. That's not reality. Even myself, being a former tournament angler and still doing tournaments on occasion, there's days that I don't catch fish. That's just reality. That's fishing. It's not, we call it fishing for a reason. We don't call it catching. If it was catching, everybody would be doing it. It's fishing for a reason.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a good time, Kristen, to go into our lightning round. So we like to ask every guest 3 questions and do about 90 seconds each. Pretty low accountability on the 90 seconds, but we'll see if we can pull it off. One of the things I first like to ask about is legacy. And I'd like to ask the question this way. As you come to the end of your life one day, hopefully a long, long, long time from now, how will you know that you've been successful in your life?
For me, the legacy is, if you look at the bait world or the Freedom Baitz world, if I can introduce one person and create a new passion for that one person, that's a pretty good legacy.
Well, now it's 90 seconds on something that's got you going down the rabbit hole that's not fishing related. Maybe it's a new hobby, book you've read, a great new podcast you recently were on called Liberty Spenders, whatever the thing is. What's something that's got you down the rabbit hole lately?
Podcasts, just in general, have got me going down a rabbit hole. My wife complains to me, God, you're on the podcasts again. Can we have a conversation? I get sucked into podcasts. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I love finding new podcasts. When I was introduced to you guys, I think I binge watched like 15 episodes the first night. So I get into that rabbit hole pretty quick when I find a new podcast that sounds intriguing or looks interesting. I unfortunately dive deep into them.
Well, we've had some killer great episodes recently, so I'm glad to know we've got a fan. I totally wasn't asking for a compliment there, but I'll take it. All right. So finally, let's say somebody only listened to, 90 seconds of today's podcast. Who needs to know about Freedom Baitz? Why should they know? Why should they be purchasing from you all?
Basically, I would say anybody and everybody can know about Freedom Baitz. You don't have to be a diehard fisherman or woman to buy into what Freedom Baitz is doing. We're made in America. We're vets, supporting vets, the veteran community. That's Freedom Baitz legacy in a nutshell right there, is supporting the veteran community. First liners, firefighters, paramedics. It's the people that support this country. That's who we are.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, it's been great to have you on and to learn about what you're doing. And I really thank you for joining. For those who are listening, if you want to get in touch with Ryan, hit him up at www.freedombaitz.com. And just know Baitz is Baitz, freedombaitz.com.
Or sounds like you can just call the number and you can chat him up.
Yeah.
He's available.
You can do that as well.
That too.
I'm joking now. I don't want to have you inundated with phone calls or anything, but
the Liberty Spenders audience is big.
Hey, if it inundates me with phone calls, I will be glad to take them.
That's what we call a high quality problem, right?
Yes.
You don't get rid of your problems. You just want them to be of higher and higher quality.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ryan, this has been so fun, and you have made this feel very approachable, even to people who are not regular I guess anglers is the term. See, we kept saying, I'm so sorry. I was so afraid to use that term.
Yes.
So sorry for a bunch of people who don't know. I really appreciate you taking this time and explaining. And it's awesome what you're doing. And I appreciate the work you've put into to try to stick again to your values and live that out and how you run your business through every facet. So I just want to encourage you. And thanks for sharing this with our team. And for those of you listening, we appreciate your time. We know how valuable it is. If you found value in today's episode, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss anything in the future. And again, we invite you to learn more about what we're up to at Liberty Spenders. You can get access to our new book at libertyspenders.com/free. Until next time.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Liberty Spenders podcast. If you're a business owner, we hope today's conversation gave you valuable insights on how to grow your business.
If you enjoyed the show, do us a favor. Hit like, subscribe, and leave a 5-star review. It really helps us reach more entrepreneurs and leaders like you who are ready to make an impact.
And write something flattering, because I read them all. Don't forget to grab your copy of Liberty Spenders too, available now on Amazon and at libertyspenders.com. It's packed with proven strategies to help you reach the 76.5 million consumers who are looking for brands that share their values.
We'll see you next time as we continue exploring how to grow your business with purpose and conviction.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next episode and the one after that.